Hello and welcome to week 8 of public speaking. We have our informative speeches coming up, which I'll talk about at the end of this video. So first we're going to talk about presentation aids. Some of you were a little confused about your PowerPoints. As I had said before, it doesn't have to be a PowerPoint, it can be a Prezi. It just needs to be a visual representation of what you're talking about. So as you can see here, presentation aids include objects, models, pictures, graphs, charts, video, audio, any kind of multimedia that is a representation of what you're talking about. Something you should know that is if you decide to show a video within your speech, the timing is stopped. So you still need to give your 6 to 8 minute speech, but you don't I stop the clock during the time the video plays because you could give me a 1 minute speech with a 5 minute video and that would not be appropriate. Presentation aids help listeners to see relationships among the concepts you're talking about, store and remember material, and critically examine the key ideas. So the function of presentational aids helps listeners process and retain information, promotes interest and motivation, conveys information concisely. So when you can show a picture of something, it gives the listener or the watcher, your audience, a better idea of what you're talking about. If you're talking to me about the parts of a car motor, I don't know cars at all, so it'd be great if you showed me a picture. And it lends a professional image to your speech. I also know that it's difficult for you, but some of you did do it, to show a PowerPoint while giving your speech to your 5 people. That is why I just have you upload it to me, just to make sure that it's done. The multimedia effect. That is the learning principle that suggests that we learn better from words and pictures than we do from words alone. And I'm sure you can all agree, when you see pictures that complement and aid you in understanding the information, it's very helpful. You could use maps if you are talking about a place around the world. Now, informative speeches, they're about sharing something with us, giving us some new information, teaching us something. So maybe you want to tell us about Italy, and you can show us a map of Italy and maybe the different parts of Italy, or where you've been in Italy, or the kind of foods they eat. Oh, they eat good foods in Italy. You could use graphs and charts. Those are also really helpful in helping people understand. Audio or video clips. I like audio clips. They let my mind imagine all kinds of wonderful things. If you ever listen to NPR radio, there's a show called StoryCorps, which are audio clips of different people around the United States telling stories of their life. It's really, really interesting. If you have the opportunity to sit down, go to npr.org and check out StoryCorps. They tell some great stories. Designing your aids. The purpose of presentation aid is to support, summarize, and add ideas, not to repeat verbatim what you're saying in the speech. Many of you did this in your other speech. You just put down all the words that you were saying. That's not what the PowerPoint is for. It's to help us to better understand and summarize. That's why we only use short bullet points. We use a lot of pictures. Audience members usually have about 30 seconds to view each aid, so don't put a lot of pictures on one slide. You want 1 or 2 pictures, and design it simply and use text sparingly. Avoid unnecessary graphics or text. Avoid clutter. Don't have too much stuff on each slide. You're better off using more slides and less things on the slide. When it comes to your fonts, make sure they're big enough. I'm a little older than you guys are, so 48 works great for me. I wouldn't go much smaller than 36 because you can see by looking at this screen that it's already getting a little smaller, and you want to make sure your entire audience can see. Color. Keep the background color consistent in all your slides. This is really easy to do in PowerPoint because you can pick a theme and it does all this for you. Use bold or bright colors to emphasize important points. You have to be careful of the red. Make sure it's either outlined or it's a darker red because sometimes it bleeds. Use colors that contrast with the background for typeface. Black words on a white background is usually a really good choice. Limit the number of colors you use to 3. Try not to get too exotic unless you're doing a, psychedelic hippie presentation. Then you might want to get a little more colorful, but use it in association with what you're talking about. And consider the meaning associated with colors. And I'm going to show you something here. Look at this. This is kind of cool. And actually, the word cool will be on one of your tests. On your final exam, you're going to have a question, what color is associated with calm and cool? And you'll be given the choices of red, green, blue, or yellow. Well, looky there. It's blue. And the word cool and blue, they kind of go together. Using the presentation software, I assume everyone is able to use PowerPoint by now. If you are having any trouble, just send me an email. I can walk you through it. I can do a quick little video on how it's used. You don't have to use PowerPoint. It's just the easiest one. There are these others. Prezi is pretty common now. I don't use these other two, but you're welcome to play around with them if you prefer. PowerPoint should complement the presentation, not be considered the presentation itself. That's what was happening in our last speech. A lot of words on the PowerPoint, as if you were writing out the entire speech. That's not what we want to do here. Sometimes risks are involved with using your PowerPoint or using the internet. Your file might not be incompatible. It might be incompatible. The internet's not working. There's all kinds of things that can happen. I always make it a rule of thumb to email myself my PowerPoint. I carry it on an external drive, and I also have the hard drive in my computer that I could always pull it up on and attach to a monitor. So there's a good chance you're going to get it done that way. And I get paid for my speeches, so I don't want to not do it, or I don't make any money. So it's a good thing to get into the habit of. Begin planning your slides with your outline. While you're writing your outline, think about what kind of picture would go well with this, and what do I want to show here. Think through what points will benefit your listeners as a visual aid. Inserting video. I totally prefer YouTube links. You can embed video in PowerPoint, but you have to make sure then in the folder that PowerPoint's in is all the videos, because it looks to point to the video. So if you have it on a jump drive and you just have the PowerPoint and you don't have the videos, they're not linking to anything when you put it into another computer. It's just, remember, the computer's just a shell. It just does what you tell it to. So if you only put in a PowerPoint and there are no videos in that folder for it to point to, your embedded videos won't work. So it's best to use a YouTube. Even as a personal video, you guys know now how to upload to YouTube because you do it for all your speeches now. Just create a YouTube link and put it into your PowerPoint. The key in a PowerPoint YouTube video is once you've inserted it, hit the return button. When you hit the return button, it becomes a hyperlink. Until you do, it won't be. So if you just pop it in and then go to your next slide, you won't be able to click on it. You have to hit the return button. You'll see it turn to color. And in this particular PowerPoint, you'll see it's yellow. I'll show you in a second. My links turn yellow. And you can change the color of your links. Always abide by copyright restrictions. If you are going to use video in your informational speech, you must have a slide at the end of your speech telling us whose it is and where you got it. The link is fine, but you have to write the name of the video and then the link, the hyperlink that you got it from. This is to give credit to the people who deserve it. So here you see these yellows. These are all links. This PowerPoint is on Blackboard. These are all ways to ethically source material. Morgue Files is one of my favorite places to get photos because it's from professional photographers and they're done with the photos. They don't want them anymore and they just put them up there for anyone to use for free. My other favorite is for sound is YouTube Audio Library. Same idea. I get all kinds of wonderful audio from YouTube Audio Library, and it's absolutely free to use. If you want video, I use Video Blocks. There's a free and a pay version. The pay version isn't very expensive at all, and I have it, so that's the one I like to use. So, next week you'll do your informative speech. In an informative speech, it's a fact-based speech intended to teach its audience about a specific topic. Informative speeches must have thesis statements, and where do they belong? They belong in your intro, and they belong in your conclusion. Please remember that. You lose points if that doesn't happen. You use slides, photographs, and other visual aids to enhance informative speeches. An informative speech may focus on a general information like the history of bread, let's say, or it could be more of a teaching moment where we teach the audience how to bake bread. And right here, I'm going to click on this link right here. See, because I hit the return button, I was able to click the link. Here's a site. This is myspeechclass.com/informative-topics-2, so that must mean they have a 1. And here are all different kinds of ideas for you. Look, there's automotive, there's animals, there's business, there's communication. So you can just Google search informative speech topics, and you can find thousands and thousands here. So please get that together this week. I'm going back off here, and we are going to hit the return button. So we can, whoops, right back here. And this week, we've gone through the chapters. Chapter 27 is entertainment speeches, so I'm going to wait on that one. There's a file in Blackboard called Informational Speech Guidelines and Ideas. I put a couple of links in there for you to look at. And your assignment for this week is to fill out your informative speech outline right here, right here. You download this exact outline, you fill it out, and then you upload it into Blackboard as your assignment. So here are your deadlines. Your informative outline is due this Saturday by 11:59 p.m. And your speech, your informative speech based on that outline, is due the following Saturday at 11:59 p.m. along with the PowerPoint. The speech link and the PowerPoint. From here on out, every speech gets a PowerPoint. The informative outline only gets done once, so please do it correctly. Make sure that you have a thesis statement. Today I will be talking about how to bake bread through a recipe from my grandmother, the history of making bread, and the best bread I've ever eaten. And then when you give your speech, in your introduction it says, today I'm going to talk to you about baking bread through a recipe from my grandma, the history of bread, and the best bread I've ever eaten, and then I'm going to talk about those 3 things, and at the end, in my conclusion, I'm going to say, so today I talk to you about the history of bread, how to bake bread, and my favorite bread. Thank you. Are there any questions? And you will do just great. Have a wonderful week.